Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 17. Verse number 1. Visions of faith. On page 769 in this book, Visions of Faith, chapter 17. Arjuna Vacha Ye Shastra Vidhim Utsrija Yajante Sharayan Vantaha Te Samnistatuka Krishna Sarvamaho Rajastamaha. Word for word. Arjuna Vacha. Arjuna said, "Hey, those who Shastra Vidham, the regulation of scriptures, Sri Jaya, giving up, Jayanti, worship, Pradaya, full faith, and Vitaha, possessed of, they some of them, Nista, the faith, to, but, ka, what, Krishna, oh Krishna, Satava, in goodness, aha, or else, Rajaha, in passion, Namaha, in ignorance. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A. Sri Bhakti-yoga Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. This sound is okay? Too loud? Too low? Sound is okay or not? Sound is okay? Everybody can sleep nicely now? It's too loud? No, he said no. It's too loud? No. He said no, don't touch it. It's okay. Sound is okay. Arjuna inquired. No, I'll read it first. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of Scripture, who worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, passion, or ignorance? Purport by His Divine Grace, A. Sri Bhakti-yoga Swami Srila Prabhupada. In 4th chapter, 39th verse, it said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually become elevated to the stage of knowledge and attain the highest perfectional stage. Of peace and prosperity. In the 16th chapter is concluded The one who does not follow the principles laid down in scriptures is called an Asura, demon. One who follows the principles, scriptural injunctions faithfully is called a Deva, or demigod. Now if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptures, scriptural injunction, what is his position? This doubt of Arjuna is to be cleared by Krishna. For those who create some sort of God by selecting a human being and placing their faith in him, worship him in goodness, passion, or ignorance. For such persons attain the perfectional stage of life. Is it possible for them to be situated in real knowledge and elevate themselves to the highest perfectional stage? Those who do not follow the rules and regulations of Scripture, who have faith in something and worship gods and demigods and men, attain success in their effort. Arjuna is putting forth this question. Om Aryanatram Dasya Janandana Slataya Sakshu Imitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamadam Nanti Swapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Translation. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of Scripture, but worship according to their own imagination, either in goodness, passion, or ignorance? So this is chapter 16. In the summary of chapter 16, those who possess the maniac qualities, who live whimsically without following the regulation of Scriptures, attain lower births and further material bondage. Chapter 17. There are three types of faith, corresponding to and evolving from the three modes of material nature. Acts performed by those with faith, whose faith is in passion and ignorance, yield only impermanent material results, whereas acts performed in goodness in accordance with scriptural injunctions, purify the heart and lead to pure faith in Lord Krishna and devotion to him. So Lord Chaitanya would have kirtan at the house of Srivas Thakur. And there was one brahmachari, or a young boy, who was always requesting Srivas to let him see the kirtan. Well, Mahaprabhu said only my devotees can be allowed to enter the kirtan. So Srivas said, okay, you can stay, but we have to hide you. This boy was very austere, simple boy. He only drank milk and ate fruit. So then the kirtan began, and Lord Chaitanya became disturbed, said something's wrong. And I'm not feeling the same ecstasy I usually feel. There's someone here that doesn't belong here. And Srivas had to say, yes, this boy, he brought the boy out. This boy, he's a very simple boy. He lives a austere life, only drinks milk, eats fruit and milk. So Lord Chaitanya became angry and said, well, take him out. I don't want any milk drinkers in my kirtan. So as the boy was going out, he was he was happy that he got to see the Lord dancing kirtan, but he had to go out. But Lord Chaitanya knew that he was actually a devotee, so he called him back. So this is because the boy was following his own process. He was not following the process, recommended process. He was not accepted by the Lord at first. So here, chapter 7, text 1 through 10, describing Krishna's different worship in the modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. So Arjuna wants to know where in the banyan tree those who do not follow the scriptures. So, 15th chapter, it says there's a banyan tree, which has its roots upward, branches down. These are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree knows the Vedas. So everything in the material world is contained in that banyan tree. This is an analogy. The banyan tree represents the material world, which is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So, people who do not follow the scriptures is described here. It's also been discussed earlier in chapter 4, text number 230. Text number 813. According to three modes of material nature, the work associated with them, ordered in the human society, are created by me. Although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. There is no work that, no, it's anyway. I got the wrong verse. 240:39. 439. Sarvao abate yanam tatparam samyatendriya yanam lava param satim achire digachati. A faithful man is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme peace. Purport: such knowledge and Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person who believes firmly in Krishna. One is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness he can attain the highest perfection. His faith is attained by discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. Over and above this, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna, controls the senses, can easily obtain perfection in knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. That's an important point. You have to control your senses. If you're practicing Krishna consciousness and you still want to enjoy in the material world, it's like trying to cross a river with two boats, putting one foot in each boat. So how far will you get? Not very far. So everybody, whether you're brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, everyone has to control his senses. That means following the four regulated principles: no eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. And if one can't control his senses, then his advancement will be very slow. The Brahma says for householders, grihasthas, advancement is very slow or next to nil. The household life is a difficult entanglement, and people in household life have a hard time controlling their senses, and they have so many responsibilities and so many things to do, but they can't chant properly, and they can't sleep properly, and so many problems are there if you're in the household life. But it's the Grihastha ashram, and if one follows it strictly, then he can advance in Krishna consciousness. So also in chapters 16, text 23 says, living in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Yet, in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseeing permitter, as known as the Super Soul. So, Arjuna has his doubt, and he wants Krishna to clear it up. But some people worship, as part called Papasha Kroshana, worship 5 gods. They worship Ganesh, Shiva, Indra, Durga, Vishnu. And they usually have an altar, with a hodgepodge altar, where they put the demigods and Radha Krishna and the grandmother and Jesus Christ, everybody under the sun, and they think they're doing some kind of bona fide worship. Even down the street, a life member opened a temple. He has Krishna Balaram Gaurnitai, Radhasham, he has Shiva Linga, he has Durga, he has Ganesh, he has this and that. There's also the hodgepodge temple. But Srila Prabhupada was very strict in his temples. It was only the worship of Radha Krishna, Gaurnitai, Jagannath Subhadra Baladev. In most temples, in some temples, Sita Ram Lakshman, Hanuman. But in either case, he only had deities of Vishnu Tattva and nobody else. So people won't become confused and think that it's all right to worship the demigods. Most people in Vrindavan nowadays, they worship demigods. As soon as you turn off the Delhi highway, on the right side, there's a statue of Durga Devi, about 40 feet high. So people get the impression that Vrindavan's meant for worshipping Durga, not only Radha and Krishna. But that's not a fact. Prabhupada says, who's these rascals who introduced this demigod worship? And they celebrate Durga Puja. In some temples, they even have a murti of Durga. But we don't do that, because Prabhupada never told us to do that. Shruti Shriti Puranabhi says, if one does not follow the scriptures, then it's simply a disturbance to the society. So, those kind of people, Arjuna wants to know if they can attain perfection. If you have faith in demigods and others and men, can you attain success? Some people put their faith in the wrong place. Shraddha, faith. And they had one big guru in Delhi, people put their faith in him, and he had thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers and crores of rupees, but he had a slip, made a mistake, and ensued a court case, and they gave him life in jail. So because he wasn't a bona fide spiritual master, people put their faith in the wrong person. It's like there's drama they do, where a man goes to the bank every week to deposit his money, when a certain person is there in the bank. So one day he comes to the bank, and there's another man in the teller in the bank. And when he goes to deposit his money, the man looks for his account, and he says, "Sorry, sir, you put your money in the wrong account." So this is like people who worship different kinds of people. It's like putting your money in the wrong account. You don't get any benefit. So this word aho means there's two choices. That you can choose to follow the path chalked out by the acharyas, or follow some other path, which is not following the scriptures. Like they make this praying mandir down the road. It's a very popular temple. They got everything's made of marble. They attract a lot of people. But our temple, we have 10 people selling flowers in front, so people can buy a garland and bring it to offer to the deities. But in that temple, the people in front are selling ice cream because they don't put any importance to deity worship. So this is not bona fide. They're not in any sampradaya. So they cannot actually obtain success. Go back to God. They cannot obtain Krishna prema, called the Prema Mandir, but they don't believe in worshiping Radha and Krishna in a proper way. They have some murti of Radha Krishna, but they use artificial flowers. They don't even have a kitchen. I don't know if they cook anything or offer anything. So this is an example of going in the wrong way. To get on the Delhi highway to go to Delhi, but the driver makes a mistake, turns the wrong way, you end up in Agra. So we go in the wrong way. So if you don't worship, if you don't follow the scriptural injunctions as laid down by the acharyas, then you'll never attain success in spiritual life. Although you may think you're advancing in spiritual life, still, if one is still attached to material activities, then it means it's not advancing in spiritual life. We have to Paramdishvara Nivartante says by obtaining a higher taste we can give up the lower tastes. Sometimes the devotees do things which are not following the principles, like they go on the internet and watch non-devotional movies, or they watch the cricket match, which goes on for hours and days. It's completely boring and useless. It doesn't help them make any spiritual advancement, because it's the same as participating in frivolous sports, which is the same as gambling in frivolous sports. One should not do these things. The time of initiation we promise no meeting, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no meat, fish, or eggs. So if we go against the instructions of the spiritual master, then that's the third offense to the holy name, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master or consider him an ordinary man. So, if the spiritual master is not in line, our line of a bona fide sampradaya, the four sampradayas, one coming from Lakshmi, one coming from the four Kumaras, one coming from Lord Brahma, one coming from Lord Shiva. So if someone's not in one of those sampradayas, then you know he's not in a bona fide line, and his progress and success in spiritual life will not be there. So we're in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. We're coming from Lord Brahma. And Srila Prabhupada was a staunch follower of his Guru Maharaj and the Parampara system. We have the immediate acharyas on their altar in every one of our temples. Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhakti, Gorkashore Das Babaji, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. They are the immediate acharyas in our line. So, in this way, the devotees should not be confused if we associate with devotees. So the beginning of spiritual life begins with Shraddha, faith. A person comes to the temple, develops a little faith, but at first it may not be very strong, but not blind faith. We don't want blind followers. We want people who come and inquire submissively, not challenging, so they can develop some faith. Without faith in something, you don't want to do it. People put their faith in the barber. So they go to the barber, takes out the razor, and shaves their face. So they put their faith in the barber, knowing that he's not going to cut their throat. Or they put their faith in the bank. They put all their money in the bank because they know they're not going to lose their money if they put it in the bank. Hopefully, they won't change the notes. But in most cases, people have faith in this way. But the faith, people who come to Krishna consciousness, those Shraddha, this beginning of spiritual life, is that one has faith. And then from faith, one becomes a little steady. And then Bhajana Kriya takes initiation. Then Anartana Vritti, he gives up unwanted habits, his bad habits, by following the four regular principles. Then from there, there's Shraddha again, the firm faith. Firm faith means putting your faith in something sublime. So Krishna consciousness is sublime in all the different ways, and we can appreciate that by having such a nice temple here in Vrindavan, and so many thousands of people are coming here taking darshan every single day and appreciating how wonderful the darshan is, which they don't get in any other temple. But although the standard of worship has improved greatly in most temples since the 1970s and 80s, the standard was very poor. In some temples, they didn't have any flowers, everything was run down. There was one temple in Jaipur, the government gave them 10 rupees a day to maintain the deities. So what can you do with 10 rupees a day? So it was like that for a while, but now the temples have all improved very much and remodeled their courtyards and remodeled their altar and everything. But still, there's not many people go to these other temples, the 7 Goswami temples. except for Radha Damodar and Radha Raman. Most people go to Banki Bihari, Radha Raman, Radha Damodar, and come here to our temple. But our temple is probably the most popular temple. And when people come here, they develop some faith that Krishna consciousness is a nice thing, to get some appreciation of the temple, the deity worship, the devotees, and kirtan, and they get an experience that don't have any other place. You won't find 24-hour kirtan in most temples in Vrindavan. There may be some groups, some widow ladies or old men that do 24-hour kirtan, but in most temples there isn't any kirtan going on. But here we have 24-hour kirtan, so the kirtan is going on all day, all night. And Prabhupada says as long as the kirtan goes on all day and all night, then people will come to this temple continuously. Otherwise, it will simply be become a vacant temple, a nest for the rats and the dogs. So in this way, one can develop his faith gradually, considering things carefully by associating with intelligent devotees and the Guru. So this is the Shraddha, faith in the mode of goodness. Faith in the mode of ignorance and passion cannot elevate anyone or get anyone out of the material world. They have to stay here and suffer repeated birth and death. Janma karma chame divyam evam yogeti tattvacha jagvadeham punarjanma natimam eti so Arjuna. So Krishna says that and one knows me in truth, he doesn't take birth again. And also, Krishna says, again, there are those, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Dharma prodita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaram satam. Clearly rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the sage Vyasa, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need for any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within the heart. It also says in the Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, is Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart. The devotee who has developed the urge to hear this message, which are themselves virtuous, and when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in the classes in Bhagavatam and rendering service to the pure devotee, all its troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service in the Supreme Personality of Godhead is praised with transcendental songs, established as irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of the modes of nature, passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and becomes completely happy. So, this is the process. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. One time, Lord Chaitanya was traveling in South India, and there was a devotee who was sitting in the temple, and he was trying to read the Bhagavad-Gita, but he was illiterate and couldn't pronounce the words properly. So the other Brahmins in the temple were laughing at him. So Lord Chaitanya went to the man and asked him, "What are you doing here?" And the man could understand Lord Chaitanya didn't come to make fun of him or laugh at him. So he said, "I am trying to carry out the order of my spiritual master. My spiritual master has ordered me to read the whole Bhagavad-Gita every day, the verses in Sanskrit. But I'm a illiterate man, and I can't read them properly." So the other Brahmins here are laughing at me. The Lord Chaitanya said, "But I see that you're crying. Why is it that you're crying when you're reading the Bhagavad-Gita?" And he said, "Because when I think how Krishna has become Arjuna's chariot driver, I become overwhelmed with ecstasy." So Lord Chaitanya embraced that man and said that you're the real knower of Bhagavad-Gita. So he had faith that if he carried out the orders of his spiritual master, even though he couldn't do it properly, that he would be successful in his spiritual life. So we should be careful that we always follow the instructions of the spiritual master, not disobey his instructions. And if we're not clear about his instructions, we can ask him or consult some other senior devotees about whether that instruction should be followed or not. Most instructions should be followed, but there's one instruction that you don't have to follow. If the spiritual master tells you you should get married, that instruction you don't have to follow. When Lord Brahma told the four Kumaras, "I want you to grow up and populate the universe as progenitors," but the four Kumaras said, "No, we don't want to get entangled in family life. We're not going to grow up. We're going to stay 4 or 5 years old." So they didn't follow Lord Brahma's instructions, and they stayed 4 or 5 years old so they don't get agitated for his sex life. They can't get married. There's no question of ever getting married or getting entangled in material life. So there's an incident where the instructions of the spiritual master, the guru, wasn't followed. But otherwise, it should be followed as much as possible. But so Prabhupada gave his instructions. He had Vani and Vapu. The Vapu means the close association. Many people had the close association with Prabhupada, but the Vani, his instructions, is more important. So Prabhupada left a legacy to us by translating and purporting Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, so many books, so we could get this Vani. The Bapu is not as important. The fly is sitting on the king's lap, but that doesn't mean he's associating with the king. And it says familiarity breeds contempt. So the devotees who were serving Prabhupada had to be very careful that they didn't commit offenses and see things in Prabhupada, considering him an ordinary man. Although Prabhupada may have done things that did seem like ordinary man, it shouldn't have been observed by his servants. They should have just did whatever he asked them to do. If a servant would instruct Prabhupada, say, "This is not good, Srila Prabhupada," Prabhupada said, "Who's instructing who?" So it's not the duty of the disciple to instruct the spiritual master. You should be careful only to follow his instructions. And this is an important thing to remember. So it also says in Srimad Bhagavatam, simply by hearing about the lotus feet with eagerness and devotion, by meditating upon them within the heart, one at once becomes enlightened with knowledge and strength of detachment. One becomes purified, and therefore take shelter of the sanctuary of your lotus feet. Also says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually, by the process of Shravanam Kirtanam, the seed will begin to sprout. So, this is the Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhakti Lata Beach. When one takes initiation from the spiritual master, there's a seed which begins to grow. That seed becomes a creeper, very tender creeper. So if you have a plant, and especially in Vrindavan, you have to fence it around, or the monkeys will come, or dogs and hogs and other animals will destroy the creeper. So you have to fence that creeper all around by the process of hearing and chanting, by the process of associating with devotees and following the principles. Then you have to water the creeper. If you don't put water, it'll dry up. So the watering process is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam, hearing and chanting. Again, the chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. This is the most important of the 9 processes of devotional service. Hearing and chanting is the foremost. When Lord Chaitanya was in South India, he asked the Tapavartis, who were the Madhvacharya sect, how to attain perfection. And they said by following the Varnashram system. But Lord Chaitanya said no. He knew they were proud of their spiritual life and misunderstood how to attain perfection. So Lord Chaitanya said no, by chanting holy name, this is the way to attain perfection. Harinam, 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 Eva Kebalo, Kaluna Stevana, Stevana Steva Gati Anyata. In this age of Kali Yuga, there's no other process but chanting the holy name. Repeat it 3 times, no other way, no other way. But the Varnashram system is there, but if one does his duty in the Varnashram system, then Shravanam Eva Kevalam, simply a useless waste of time if he's not developing his devotional service at the same time. So it's Daivi Varnashram system. One has to also be developing his Krishna consciousness. The same thing if one is a temple president or has some service in the temple and he's doing his service very nicely. One may be a temple president for 20 years or some other service, but if he's not trying to if he's not practicing Krishna consciousness strictly, trying to develop his love for Krishna at the same time, then Prabhupada said he's simply wasting his time. You may give him credit that this man has been so dedicated to his service for such a long time. But if he's not developing his Krishna consciousness at the same time, he's wasting his time. So both things must be there: service and sadhana. One has to perform his service according to his duty, whatever his service may be. He has to do that nicely, but he also has to have a good sadhana, which means that he attends a morning program, and which means Mangal Arati, Srimad Bhagavatam class, chant 16 rounds every day, very attentively. And the chanting is the most important thing we should do, and there are 10 offenses to chanting the holy name. But the 10th offense is to maintain material attachments and not have complete faith, even after understanding so many instructions about the subject matter. So if you're still thinking, I, me, mine, then you're still materially attached. You're still committing offenses to the holy name. And it's also offensive to be inattentive while chanting. So you may be chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, 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 Hare Hare. But you're thinking about what time is prasadam, what am I going to do tomorrow, what did I do yesterday, what did I do 20 years ago, what am I going to do 20 years from now, who's going to take care of me, who's going to look after my children. So you may be thinking so many different things, and you're not actually chanting the holy name. You're not hearing. So when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, Prabhupada, what we should think about when we're chanting. And Prabhupada said, you shouldn't think about anything. You just hear the holy name. Just hear the holy name. Bring your mind back. The mind goes wandering off here, there, and everywhere. But we have to keep bringing it back and just hear the holy name. And we can hear how Prabhupada is chanting at the same time, softly in the background. Right? And try our best to concentrate on the holy name, even though the mind is very flickering, chantalam, mind going here and there. The uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy, and the controlled mind becomes the best friend. So controlling the senses means to control the mind. It says that the living entity in the material world has conditioned suffering in the material world by these 6 senses, which include the mind. So the senses are there, and they're giving us trouble all in so many ways. But the mind is the most difficult and hard to control. And the mind doesn't want to obey. The mind is, Bhakti Siddhanta would say, you have to beat your mind in the morning 100 times with a shoe, and beat your mind 100 times at night with a broomstick. So beating our mind doesn't mean we get a headache. Doesn't mean we beat our head. It means we try not to listen to our mind. If someone calls you and says some bad thing, you just hang up the phone. You don't continue to listen. Someone says something blasphemous, you walk away. So we should treat the mind like that. Where the mind dictates, we should not listen to our mind, but we should listen to the holy name when we're chanting japa, when we're sitting in class, when we look at the deities. Prabhupada said if you're looking at the deities and you're thinking of something else, you're not really taking darshan of the deities. So when you're looking at the deities, you should just see the beautiful form of Gauranitai, Krishna Balaram, Radha Sundar, and you can understand. Think about how the lotus feet of the Lord Chaitanya, when he took birth in Navadvip, his mother and father witnessed that there were the footprints of the Lord on the floor. And they were thinking, how is this possible? We don't have any deity, Krishna deity. all we have is a baby boy and a shalagram. So then Mother Sachi, she picked up Lord Chaitanya, she looked at his feet, and she saw that all the marks, auspicious marks, were on his feet, such as a bow, unstrung bow, triangle, 4 water pots, calf's hoof print. So many things are there on the feet. Markings are there on the hands and feet of Krishna, Vishnu Tapa, and also of the incarnations of the Lord. If someone's the incarnation of the Lord, like Prithu Maharaj, it could be understood that he was an incarnation of the Lord because they could see these markings on his hands and feet. So in this way, if we can meditate on these feet of the Lord, it says when you go in front of the deity, you first start by looking at the feet and gradually working up to his smiling face. And Bill Mangalath Kaur says the most beautiful thing about the Lord is his sweet, gentle smile. So this we can see in Gaurnitai, Krishna Balam, and Radha Sundar. They all have sweet, gentle smile. And this is what we can meditate on and see every single day. If the temple's crowded in the morning, and you can't get darshan at certain times, but you can all day long the temple's open. And you go to darshan any time and meditate and pray to the Lord that you can attain pure devotional service. It says, Nitai Parakavalam, you should take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda because he's the Adi Guru, situated in everyone's heart. And by the mercy of Lord Nityananda, one can get the mercy of the 6 Goswamis. And by getting the mercy of 6 Goswamis, one can get the mercy of the spiritual master. And this way, one can get the mercy of Radha and Krishna. And you have to get the mercy of Radharani. And that comes, if you get the mercy of Radharani, then she will recommend you to worship Krishna, serve Krishna. So without this, getting the mercy, Kripa Siddha, mercy, we can't do anything on our own. There's Sadhana Siddha, there's Nitya Siddha, Kripa Siddha, 3 kinds of devotees. Those are Nitya Siddhas, are the devotees who have ascended to the material world to assist the Lord in his pastimes. They're liberated souls, but they come in the material world looking like ordinary human beings. And then there's Kripa Siddha, those who obtain perfection by getting the mercy of a pure devotee, like Narada Muni, converted a hunter into a Vaishnava, or a prostitute, Haridas Thakur, converted a prostitute into a pure devotee. So this Kripa Siddha is there, but you can't expect to get Kripa Siddha. That's rarely achieved. You have to go, if you want to get a degree from the college, you have to go to 4 years through the process. You can't expect to get an honorary degree. So Kripa Siddha is rarely achieved. But in Sadhana Siddha, that can, by following strictly, developing our faith, gradually become firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. By faith, by staying steady, by only eating Krishna prasadam, by not playing with our phone all day and looking at nonsense things. You should say, keep our mind from getting deviated, getting polluted by different kinds of nonsense things. It's very easy nowadays with modern technology. As soon as you turn on your phone, you see a beautiful woman, you push the wrong button, you see the wrong thing. It's very easy to get distracted. So we should try to avoid these things. Also it says, Nirbandham Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchite. Having a phone is not banned or a bad thing, but it should only be utilized in Krishna's service, not otherwise. So there's many other things to say here, but we want to emphasize the fact we have to have faith, not blind faith, and that comes by accepting a bona fide spiritual master. So the spiritual master is supposed to examine the disciple for 1 year And the disciples were supposed to examine the spiritual master for 1 year. And then, if they a mutual agreement, one can take initiation. Narottam Das Thakur was empowered by Lord Chaitanya at the age of 12. He went to bathe in the river. When he came out, his complexion changed. He became golden. So Lord Chaitanya entered his heart and gave him prema. But he was told to go to Vrindavan and take initiation from Lokanath Das Goswami. But Lokanath Das Goswami made a vow never to take any disciples. So Narottam Das Thakur would perform menial service when his Guru Maharaj went to answer the call of nature. When he finished, he would clean up after him. So one day, Lokanath Goswami was wondering how the place was so clean. So he hid in the bushes after he finished to see what was going on, and he saw that Narottam Das was cleaning up after him. And because he was so determined and had firm faith in Lokanath Das Goswami, he finally agreed to give him initiation. So it's important we take initiation, carefully find the right person to put our faith in, so we'll not be deviated and we'll able to attain Krishna consciousness. We can make this human life successful. Human life is a life of responsibility that we have see that our next birth, if we have to take birth again, is in a higher consciousness, higher status, so we can continue Krishna consciousness till we become perfect. So I'm going to stop there. Any comments or questions? The question man's here. You can wake up now. You finish sleeping.
So we cannot discuss or argue with our spiritual master. Whatever he says blindly we have to follow.
What's the question? I can't hear what he said.
I said the spiritual master, we have to follow blindly whatever he says. We don't have to argue with our spiritual master.
Spiritual master must be bona fide.
The spiritual master must be bona fide. But whatever he says, all the instructions we have to follow blindly, or we have to discuss with the spiritual master whether I should follow this instruction or no.
Do you understand the question?
Should we argue with the spiritual master? Or how should we, if we have a disagreement with the spiritual master?
No. Never challenge the spiritual master. Prabhupada told one devotee who was the best book distributor in one temple. He said, "I want you to become the head pujari." And the person said, "No, Prabhupada, I want to continue distributing books." So Prabhupada's servant said, "You never say no to your spiritual master. So whatever the spiritual master says, we should say, 'Yes, sir.' But he folded hands. 'Yes, sir.' We should agree with him. Should never argue with the spiritual master."
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad-Gita ki jai.